Welcome back to Dad's Garage. You join me here today in Oscar's Bar, where I'm going to be transforming this bland space with a custom built DIY seating area. So stay tuned.
Don't want nobody else around. When I'm with you, baby, nothing really matters. So like think.
So guys, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new to the channel, go back and check out some of the previous videos on this garden bar extension, where we've moved the wall that was originally here back almost 2 meters to create a lot of additional space. We've redone some stud work, we've repositioned these windows, we've then re-insulated the walls and the ceiling, we've then plasterboarded it, we've run electrics, we've plastered the walls, ran some new flooring, fit the lights, and now we've got a lovely usable space again. But in today's video, I'm going to concentrate my efforts on the inside and working out how I can build some kind of custom seating booth area here with a table and a couple of stools for around about 8 people to comfortably sit around and have a few drinks, and then maybe have another couple of people sat over here by the bar. Now this bar area is going to be another complete different video because we're going to redo that whole bar area, put in some new fridges, new cupboards, a new worktop, and then maybe do something fancy with the position of the optics on the wall and a few different things like that. But that is another area. For this video, we're just going to concentrate on the seating area. Now I have looked online and I have messaged a few companies. I've been getting quotes for around about £600 to build a bench on here. It looks something like this. Now, £600 in my eyes is quite a bit of money for a bit of foam and a bit of MDF. So, in this video, I'm going to see if I can make almost exactly the same kind of product for at least half the price. So, my plan today is to build, I think, like a box basically. So I'm going to build a box that I can use as storage inside, and then what I'll do is I'll build a backboard and I'll upholster it in like a Chesterfield style diamond pattern. That'll take a little bit of working out. I'm not a professional upholsterer, I'm not a professional anything to be honest, but we'll give it a go. So the first thing I think we need to do today is roughly measure out the box here for the seating area, how far we want to come out, and then start to build around that box frame. I do have some furniture board that's patterned very similar to the floor that I'm going to use as like a fascia front to finish the front of this box. But you'll see what I mean a little bit later in the video.
So the first thing to do was really work out how far I want the seat to come out from the room and also the width of the chair. I then decided it would be easier to build the box around the furniture board. I only had one length of this, so I wanted to cut both pieces first and then use that as a guide to build the box around. I first put a piece of masking tape down. I can use this then to mark on where I need to cut the wood. And then by clamping my spirit level to the board, I can use that as a straight line for my circular saw. Always measure twice and cut once. As you can see, there's quite a bit of smoke coming out here. I'm not quite sure why that is. It could be something to do with this idiot putting the blade on the wrong way around. After a quick flip over of that fairly hot blade, we're ready to go again.
Alright, let's try that again. I have no idea how I managed to put the blade on the wrong way around. What an idiot. That's more like it. Jesus. Try it to a professional YouTube channel. You put the bloody blade on the wrong way around. Yes, I can always edit that bit out. Right. What am I doing again?
So now we've got the furniture board finally cut with the blade on the right way around, we can use this to mark the length and the width of the timber that we need to frame the box. I then use a set square just to get everything leveled up and aligned, and that gives me the mark for the cut for the rear piece. Because obviously this wall isn't square at the back, so we have to account for that angle.
I'm just swapping over now to this smaller 10.8 volt DeWalt impact driver, because that 18 volt one sometimes is too much power for these smaller screws and it just rounds them off, so hopefully this one will be alright. These smaller drills are actually really good for just tinkering around and small DIY projects, so we'll give this one a go. Right, that's the base section done. I was going to put another support in here, but it doesn't really need it because all the weight's going down. Like there might be a little bit of play there, but it doesn't really matter. It's just going to give me a nice free floor space there to put boxes and things on. So I'm not going to bother with that middle section. We'll use that for the top to brace the MDF bench. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work out how high I need to build the sides to match this 400mm or 40cm high finishing board, and then we'll build up, and then we'll build, good catch, and then we'll build another one of these, and then we'll slowly start to piece that box together. So let's crack on with that.
So the furniture board we used at the front was 40cm wide or 400mm wide. So we needed a 30cm upright support to go between the top and the bottom of the box frame. With all these pieces cut, I can then space them evenly around the frame of the box, double check the measurements and make sure everything's lining up nicely, and then send them home with a few screws.
Alright, so to put this top bit on, I'm going to do some of these longer screws. To stop the wood splitting, I'm just going to drill a couple of pilot holes first.
Next up, I cut and install some slightly longer pieces on the back. These are what the backboard will rest against. I then fix them in place with a few cross supports. This will just give it some good structural rigidity. That's right, I said structural rigidity. With a few more cross supports and a few more screws, the box is really starting to take shape now, and we're ready to test fit the backboard.
Just rest this on here. What we can do now, this will need trimming down because it's longer than the seat's going to be. But we can now rest, the board's got something to rest against. And then, what we'll do is we'll angle it out to about 50cm there for the chair bench bit that will go across. And then when you're sat in here, you've got something to lean against. And obviously there's going to be some foam padding on here, which will probably bring it out another 2 inches thickness. So when you're sat in the chair, you should hopefully have a nice 90-degree angle to your feet and a nice bit of cushion for your back. In theory, something like that. So I'm just going to cut the rest of the bits of timber and just finish off the framework, and then hopefully we'll be ready to trim this backboard and put the seating panel on and then the facing panels, and then after that we can move on to the upholstery. Nice. Right guys, there we go. That is the semi-finished structure to the internal parts of this box. So let me bring it over now and I'll show you what it's looking like.
So here we go guys, this is the structure so far. So as you can see, I've used 3x2 timber to make the box. I've put in some extra supports here and here and at the side just to give it a bit more strength when people are obviously sitting on it. I've got the uprights here at the back, so I've put 3 of those there. I am going to get an extra piece of timber just to run across the 3 at the back, so that'll just give a proper frame there for that backboard to rest against. So I'll just give it a nice bit of structure, and I'll also give a nice square finish when we upholster and wrap the material around the top. On the inside, I have added a couple of temporary removable supports. So what that's going to allow me to do is when I take these out, it's going to give me much more space for boxes and storage on the inside. And when I put this back in, we've got support there.
So the next thing to do is trim the skirting boards at each side so I can get this box completely back in its final position. And then we'll cut these big boards to size. So let's crack on with that now.
Okay, there we go guys, that's the box cut into the skirting boards, and we've also cut the extra little bit for the front furniture / fascia board or kickboard, whatever you want to call it. So once that's got its end piece iron on trim, it's going to be looking nice and neat. So next job, let's cut the bench board and the backboard out of these 2 big pieces. So here I'm just using a screw box to drag along the wall to mark the perfect angle for the cut that I need. And as you can see, it fits like a glove. I then mark off the cut for the other side. and then do the same screw box trick to get the perfect angle for the backboard. Oh yeah, fucker! With the angle pieces fitting perfectly in place, I can then mark off and cut down the backboard to length. The final step is then just cutting and gluing in place a few 90-degree angle pieces, which the backboard will rest against. I've measured these out 10 cm at the bottom, tapering off into a point, which will give me the perfect angle for the backboard. With a bit of wood glue and a few nail pins, this will keep them in place, and the backboard can be screwed against that later.
Right guys, so here we go. Finished results before upholstering. So you can see we've done the angle cuts for the baseboard here and the backboard, and I actually used a screw box to run along the edge of the wall to get the proper angle for each of the cuts, so that worked really well. We've then trimmed off the edges. I've left about a 10mm gap at this side, just because when we upholster, the material is going to have to wrap around that, so we want a little bit of space for the material to wrap around. And then we've brought it flush to the end here, because we don't mind if a bit of material wraps around that side. I've then added a little end cap, so the backboard I cut about 18mm short of the edge because we have that gap there. So I've just cut a little corner piece which goes in nicely there. So when we upholster, we'll wrap around this end board and then around the back there. And again, I've trimmed the top off all the way along. So I will get a longer piece of timber because this one isn't quite long enough. But again, that just adds a nice little square edge to the back of the seat, so we can again upholster, run the foam over there and the material over there and around the back and sides. So I'm pretty pleased with that. It's come on really nicely. As you can see, it fits the shape of the room really well. We'll get a table here. That's pretty much all I can do today. I'll check back with you in the morning once the postman arrives with the upholstery stuff. So I'll see you in the morning. Right guys, we're back. It's now quite a few days later, but the postman has finally been with all the bits we need to get this chair upholstered and finished. So, let me show you what we bought. Right, so let me talk you through the materials I purchased to make this bench. So first off, we've got this nice 4-inch thick, high density blue cushion foam or upholstery foam. So this is the stuff that you'll get in couches and sofas, and it's the kind of stuff that makes it feel really expensive and like a proper couch, proper seat. So we've gone for that rather than the cheaper medium density stuff that's a bit more springy and bouncy and doesn't feel quite as nice. So we've got the 4-inch thick high density foam. I also bought this 1/2 inch because what you're supposed to do is wrap this 1/2 inch around over the top like that to give it a bit of a curved effect when you upholster it. But stupidly, I bought the same length of foam for that. So there's actually not enough width here to go from the back and then wrap all the way around there. So if you do choose to get that 1/2 inch, make sure you buy an extra sort of 4 to 6 inches wider than the actual base foam that I've gone for. Lessons learned, a little bit of mistakes, but we'll talk you through it. What else have I got? So for the backboard here, we've got this medium density foam, which just provides a little bit less firm feel than the high density stuff, but will be spot on for the back. And then what I'll probably do is just use that as well to give it just a little bit more cushion. Once that foam's down, we'll then put this wadding over the top. So this is 4-ounce wadding, I think it is. I think it's called wadding, but it's the kind of stuff you get inside jackets and things like that. So what we'll do is that will then wrap over the top of there, down and round, and that just gives a smooth feel and effect when you put the material over. In terms of material, we've gone for a nice blue Forks or fake, however you want to pronounce it. It's a Forks suede basically. Yeah, we've gone for a nice Forks suede blue material. So we'll wrap that around and I think that'll look really nice. It'll tie in really nice with the rest of the new colour scheme for the bar. We've also got some spray adhesive. So this spray adhesive is what we'll use to basically glue the foam to the backboard and to the bench. We've then bought some self-made or self-make buttons. So these buttons will be the ones that go through all of these holes and provide that Chesterfield style look. So that, if you don't know what Chesterfield look is, it is this. And then finally, just to make my life a little bit easier, I've also bought myself a new tool for in Dad's garage. It is
a pneumatic staple gun. So I've gone for this one. It wasn't hugely expensive, but I've seen quite a few reviews. It's a Meat, or however you want to pronounce that, but it's a nice, sturdy, good quality, compressed air pneumatic staple gun. And I've also bought 10,000 staples, so combined that was about 50 quid. So I won't include that in the cost of this build, but it's going to make my life a hell of a lot easier doing this rather than using a hand staple gun. And I'll also probably use it for lots of other projects to come on the channel. So that's everything I've bought. It's all here, ready to go, and it came in that massive box. But I think now we're about ready to crack on and get this chair or bench upholstered. So, without further ado, let's cut to a time lapse, get this bad boy done. Let's do it. So first up, we glue the high density cushion foam to the MDF base with a bit of this spray adhesive, spraying both the board and the foam, giving it a few seconds to cure and then piecing them together. Next, I use a bread knife to trim off the end. Easy! Then we'll lay out the wadding and cut that to size with a pair of scissors. And then finally, because I didn't have the half-inch foam to wrap around to make a smooth transition to the edge, I'm just going around with a bread knife and cutting off that harsh corner, and then hopefully the wadding will wrap around that edge and make it nice and smooth. So here we go, this is the semi-finished result. So this is the 4-inch foam and 2 layers of that wadding. And as you can see, it just provides a nice curvature to the chair. So pretty pleased with that. At the corners, I've just sort of folded them in on themselves and fold them around just a little bit like you do when you're wrapping a Christmas present and you've got too much material, you kind of fold the corners and then you snip a bit off and then you wrap it under and then you put some tape on. I've done exactly the same with that here, just with staples. And then for this bit here, I wrap this over and put a bit of glue on, and we can just feather that edge out a bit. So it shouldn't really make a difference when the material wraps around, but that bit goes against the wall anyway, so it's not a big deal. This side is a little bit neater. We've got the corners tucked in like that on both sides. So, next job is to get the blue fork suede material over that and smooth it out, and then we can staple it on. Let's get to it. So by laying the material out, we can then work out what length we need and trim that to size. I then decided it was probably worth getting the iron out and just ironing out those creases from the shipping. It did come in quite a small package and it was folded up, so there was quite a few creases to take out. With that now back in place and lined up, we could just check the folds in the corner to make sure we've got absolutely the right amount of material and then send it home with a staple gun. Putting in ample staples on one side. I then smoothed out the other side and sent another row of staples across. I could then trim off the excess material once again, flip it round and then pull the material taut at the other side and once again send home a row of staples. Woo! This then gives us the main shape of the bench. I could then concentrate my attention on the corner pieces, taking my time to fold the pleats, get it just perfect. I used a ruler just to help with the creases. And then once again, sending a few more staples home, it just pins everything in place. And then that's the bench seat complete.
Pretty pleased with that, if I do say so myself. Oh, and this blue foam is lovely. It feels premium, just like a proper sofa. Really pleased with that. So, next job, backboard. Right. Only 60 holes to drill now, so let's cut to a time lapse. I've just drilled my finger. Stupid boy.
So with all of the holes drilled and my boo-boo fixed, I could then offer up the backboard foam, once again lining it up, cutting it to size, and then using adhesive to stick it to the backboard. Once again spraying both the MDF and the foam, giving it a few seconds to cure, and then meeting both surfaces together. Because I had some overhang of foam, I thought it would be a good idea to spray adhesive this and then wrap it around the back of that board and staple it in place.
Right guys, so that's the foam on the backboard, and as you can see I had enough just to roll the foam over the back and staple it in place. So this is now going to give a really nice smooth round curve to the back of the headrest. So I'm really pleased with that.
So the next job is to get one of these long wooden barbecue skewers and basically just poke a hole straight through and out the front of the foam. What that's going to do is allow us to mark all of these holes on the foam, and then once they're all marked, we're going to use this special little drill bit. It's a M42, so I think it's about a 1-inch wide drill bit, and what that'll do is it'll carve like a corked shape hole out the foam, and that's basically what we use to thread the buttons through, that then staple to the back of here and create that Chesterfield style pattern on the front, on the backboard. So I'm going to crack on and get poking. I'll see you guys in a minute. So as you can see, all I'm doing here is poking the barbecue skewer, or that wooden skewer, through the back of the board, through the foam, and then marking the hole with a felt pen. At this point I can take out that special little drill bit and start drilling the holes on each of the marked points. Probably worth mentioning that you use the drill in reverse with these drill bits. That just helps to make a smooth cut in the foam. If you do it the normal way, as you would for wood or any other kind of material, it'll just absolutely eat up the foam.
Right guys, that's all the holes drilled. Let's have a quick tidy up and I'll tell you what we're going to do next. Nice.
With the foam stuck on and the holes cut, we could then get the 4-ounce wadding and position that over, once again using the spray adhesive, and then run another row of staples along the back just to pin it in place.
So when I ordered the material for this couch, I ordered enough to basically cover the whole length in a straight kind of way like this, from lengthways and top and bottom. What I didn't account for is the added material that's needed to be pulled into each of these holes as you start to pull the buttons in that Chesterfield style way. So if you look at the way the tape measure goes, it wraps around the back, and then the material needs to go inside that about 1.5 inches, and then it needs to come and wrap around there and go in there 1.5 inches, and then in there about 1.5 inches, and basically so on and so forth all the way along and all the way up across all of these button holes. So that ends up using quite a lot of extra material, and in fact I was around about 1/2 metre short to nearly 1 metre short of material in total length. So I did have to go away and order some more, but that has arrived. So we're now ready to think about finishing this chair and upholstering the back. But the next job to do is make the buttons that will pull that material in, all 65 of them.
A few moments later.
Right guys, so that is all 65 of our colour coordinated matching buttons made. The next job is we're going to get some of this string or twine, and we're going to start individually cutting some lengths, feeding it through the button and then through my makeshift upholstery needle made from a long paper clip. Now I did buy some upholstery needles at great expense, but I cannot find them anywhere. So somehow this idiot's managed to chuck them out with the packaging that came with the rest of the Amazon products. So we're going to make do with this little bad boy. I've sharpened the end. So the next step is a pretty laboursome one, and it's going to take a little while, so we will cut to a time lapse after I've shown you the first button. But essentially what we're going to do is we've marked our new material out. We've got it roughly the right even spread at each side. I'm going to start from this side. I'm going to make sure the material wraps around there comfortably, and then I'm going to come along here and finger the hole and find the first hole that we need to thread this button through. Once I've found the hole, I'll push my finger in deep to stretch the fabric round, and then I'll put the needle through, thread this first button through, and I'll go to behind and I'll pull the string, and then I'll staple it on the backboard. So let's do this one together, and then I'll cut to a time lapse and do the rest. So this first buttonhole is here. So that's through the fabric. We just need to find the little hole at the back, the needle head and the string through the fabric. Takes a bit of a tug, but we're through. That's the first one. So we're just going to centre that button, as you can see, and we've got the string now that's come through the back, so we can pull that needle off. And this string is what we're going to pull tight, and once it's tight then we'll staple it here, and then we'll go up to, and that'll just keep it in place nicely. So hopefully, you get the idea. We now only have 61 more to do. So, let's crack on.
So after finishing the first 3 rows of buttons, working my way from the middle all the way to the top, I then just need to wrap the material around the back, around that foam that I stapled earlier, pull the material taut and get the pleat creases nice, and then a few rows of staples just helps to pin it in place. Next I work my way back down from the middle, just repeating the process, finger in the hole, pushing the button through, pulling it from the back, stapling it in place, and then repeat. With all the buttons finished, I then ran a line of staples at the very bottom just to pull the material right underneath the foam, and then cut the excess around the framework, wrapped it around the back, and again stapled it in place. I then used the off-cutter material to line the top of the frame, and then installed the furniture board on the side, and as you can see, it's really starting to take shape now. As a finishing touch, I decided to line the underneath of the bench with some of this off-cut material that I had left. Again, just cutting it to size, cutting out around the positioning piece which locks it in place. Then finally, with a bit of spray adhesive, spraying the MDF and then the material very carefully, giving it a minute to cure before patting it down. And then that is job done.
Oh, nice! I've got to say, I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's going to do the job nicely to sit on and drink copious amounts of alcohol effectively. So there's just one more thing left to finish this seating area off, and that is a table. So come with me. Now I've got here an off-cut piece of worktop that I've acquired, and also some table legs off Amazon. So I'm going to attach these table legs to that custom bit of worktop that I've also already cut the angle for to match the angle of the room here. So that will fit perfectly. So guys, let's crack on and get this table made now. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed that build. I actually enjoyed it, and I feel like I've learned quite a lot, and it really has transformed the corner of this bar, and I can't wait to get sat down here with a beer very soon. But before I do, there's one question you probably all want to know is, how much did it cost me to build this custom made bench myself? So, at the beginning of the video, I told you I looked for some quotes online for a few different companies, and for this kind of bench, it was coming back at around about 550 to 650 pounds. So around about 600 pounds is an average quote price for something like this, a kind of 1.8 to 2 metre long bench. But that wouldn't have been cut to the angle of this, it would have just been a square edge bench, so it wouldn't have fit perfectly. So around about 600 pounds was the quote I got. So how much did it cost me to make this bad boy? Well, let me run you through the prices. So for the wood to make the box and also the furniture board for the front cost me £90. The foam for the cushion for the seat and for the backboard, I did buy good quality foam, so it was quite expensive actually, so it was £100 of foam in total for this 4-inch high density blue upholstery foam. The fabric cost me £85, that included the extra fabric I had to buy, so £85 in total. Then £10 for the buttons that I got off Amazon, and £5 for the glue that I used to spray and stick the foam. So in total, this bad boy cost me £290 to make, so almost half the price of what it would have been if I'd ordered online from one of those furniture companies. So I don't think that is a bad little build for £290, and we've learned quite a lot. So, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you subscribe, you like, and stay tuned for more.
There's one more video left in this build series, and that's going to be over there on the back wall. So in the next video, we're going to be building a complete new self-catering bar with some fancy snazzy lighting, TVs, optics, quite a few cool things. So make sure you subscribe, like, and stay tuned for that video next. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.